They say a rat knows every inch of its territory. For a subway rat, that territory is a city beneath a city. A world of iron, concrete, and darkness punctuated by the roar and rush of still monsters. I was that rat. My name, if I had one, was Whisker. The subway was my kingdom, and I was its unseen king. I knew every tunnel, every drain, every forgotten alcove where a discarded French fry might await. The rumble of the trains was the rhythm of my life, a predictable heartbeat. First the shudder in the rails, then the wind pushed ahead of the beast, and finally, the thunderous passage that shook the very dust from the walls. I knew the schedule better than the men in blue uniforms. I knew the last train meant silence, a time for scavenging and exploration under the dim glow of the service lights. But one night, the rhythm broke, the last train roared past, its windows a blur of light and phantom faces. I waited for the ensuing quiet, the familiar click and hum of the tracks settling into slumber. It never came. Another train thundered through, and another. The air, usually thick with the scent of ozone, rust, and grime, began to thin, stretched by the constant rush of wind. The tunnels, my familiar, predictable home, began to feel wrong. I scurried down a well-worn path toward the beeline, a route I could run with my eyes closed. But the turn that should have led to a water leak and a colony of delicious silverfish was end there. The tunnel just kept going, straight and featureless, the concrete walls seeming to sweat a cold, metallic dew. Panic, a sensation I rarely felt, began to prickle at my fur. I doubled back, my claws scrabbling for purchase on the smooth floor. The entrance to my path was gone, replaced by a solid wall of brick that looked centuries old, covered in a slime I'd never smelled before. The sounds of the trains were now a constant, overlapping roar, a cacophony that seemed to come from all directions at once. It wasn't just one train, or even a dozen. It was an endless stampede, a storm of metal and noise that vibrated through my bones. I was a creature of patterns of memory, and my memory was failing me. The map in my mind, so meticulously built over a lifetime of scurrying and sniffing, was being violently erased and redrawn. I saw another rat, a young one I recognized from the 59th Street station, dart across the tracks ahead of me. He was frantic, his movements jerky and without purpose. He squeaked, a high, thin sound of terror that was swallowed by the din. He ran down a side tunnel, and I instinctively moved to follow, but then I saw it. As he disappeared around the bend, the tunnel itself seemed to stretch, like pulled taffy, elongating into an impossible distance. He was gone, not just out of sight, but erased from the space he had just occupied. My instinct screamed at me to run, to flee this impossible geometry, but where every direction was a lie. Over the next hours, or maybe days, time had lost its meaning in the ceaseless roar. I saw it happen again and again. Rats, driven mad by the shifting maze, would bolt into new passages, only to vanish as the tunnels twisted into infinity. The familiar sense of my kin, of our nests and our trails, were fading, replaced by the sharp, sterile smell of nothing. The city of rats was emptying. We were being picked off, not by predators, but by the very ground beneath our feet. The subway was digesting us. I was running out of known paths. My world, once a sprawling but finite kingdom, had become an infinite prison designed to ensnare and consume. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum against the symphony of the ghost trains. I was exhausted, my paws raw, my whiskers twitching with sensory overload. Every tunnel looked the same, every turn led back to where I started, only slightly different. A new crack in the wall, a different pattern of dampness on the ceiling. It was a labyrinth designed to drive its inhabitants mad with false hope. I remembered a story, a scent memory passed down through generations, of the oldest tunnel, a place built before the first tracks were laid, a brick-lined sewer that smelled of ancient rust and the deep, silent earth. It was the alpha and omega of our world, the first path our ancestors took into this underground. The scent was faint, almost completely buried under the noise and the metallic tang of the phantom trains. But it was there, a whisper of rust, a hint of stagnant water and decay. It was the scent of home, of origin. Clinging to that fragile thread of an idea, I started moving, but not in a panic. I moved slowly, deliberately. I ignored the siren call of the open tunnels, the wide, inviting paths that promised escape but delivered only oblivion. I pressed myself against the wall, my nose to the ground, chasing that ancestral ghost. The deeper I went, the more the tunnel changed. The smooth concrete gave way to rough-hewn rock, then to crumbling, moss-covered brick. The air grew thick and heavy, the roar of the trains fading to a distant, muffled heartbeat. I was moving against the current, not just of the wind, but of the madness itself. The other rats ran, they ran from the impossible, trying to outpace a nightmare. But you can't outrun a dream. The harder they ran, the more the maze twisted to trap them. I had to do the opposite. I found a small, dark crevice where the old brick met the new concrete, a seam between the real world and the nightmare. The scent of rust was strongest here. I squeezed inside, my body trembling not with fear, but with a strange, profound stillness. I curled into a tight ball, closed my eyes, and stopped. I stopped running, I stopped thinking, I stopped trying to understand. I focused only on the scent of rust and the slow, steady beat of my own heart. In the darkness, I let the chaos wash over me. The thunder of the trains, the stretching walls, the infinite corridors, I let them be. I didn't fight them, I simply existed within them, a tiny, still point in a storm of unreality. I don't know how long I stayed there, curled in that pocket of time. But slowly, gradually, the world began to settle. The ceaseless roar of the train subsided, replaced by the familiar, intermittent rumble of the late-night schedule. The unnatural wind died down, the sharp, sterile smell of the maze gave way to the comforting, complex funk of the real subway. When I finally uncurled and crept out of my hiding place, the tunnel was as it should be. The path to the beeline was there, the comforting drip of the water leak, a gentle rhythm in the quiet. The walls were solid, the distances finite. The nightmare had receded. I hadn't escaped by finding an exit. I had escaped by refusing to play the game. The maze fed on panic, on movement, on the desperate search for a way out. By becoming still, by anchoring myself to a single, true memory, the scent of the oldest tunnel lie had become indigestible. The subway had spat me back out. I was one of the few who remained. The underground city was quieter now, emptier. The ghosts of the lost rats lingered in the sudden silences. I was still a king, but now of a much smaller kingdom. I still know every tunnel, every track, every shadow. But now I know something more. I know that the map in my head is not the only map. There is another one, a shifting, hungry one that waits just behind the walls, just beyond the roar of the next train. And I know that sometimes the only way to find your way back is to stop running. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales from the shadows. Stay curious.